A couple of months ago, I made a video where I basically created the new foraging update because, well, nobody else has. Having said that, the foraging update isn't the only update we've been promised but hasn't happened. Rumour has it Maddox has been stood here waiting for over 2 years now, and if Maddox's sad face wasn't enough, how about the fact that the toughest that the Spider Slayer has to offer can quite easily be defeated in, well, Glaciite armor and a Raider's Axe? Okay, this is the most difficult thing that it has to offer. Like, seriously, like, Raider's Axe, Glaciite. I have a level 17 Grandma Wolf on, 19, sorry now. This excruciatingly difficult boss tier will release at a later date, and the same for Sven. Well, I guess the term later date is not wrong. So, we have a tier 5 Revenant, and I think for Void Gloom and Inferno, we can cut a little bit of slack considering, I mean, Inferno is the newest Slayer to be released, and Void Gloom is the second newest Slayer to be released. Even though Enderman Slayer has been out for a while, I mean, the issue is nowhere near as big as for Sven and for Tarantula. Considering at the moment, the hardest challenge that we have in terms of Tarantula is a walk in the park, and the same goes for tier 4 Svens. And obviously that's not how Slayers are supposed to be. Okay, Nitros, we get it. You don't need to go on for any longer. We know we need Slayers v2, and realistically we need, at minimum, tier 5 Svens and Tarantula, and some new content to do with those as well. Well, let's see what they could add. First of all, in terms of bosses, between a tier 4 Rev and a tier 5 Rev, there's quite a substantial difference in difficulty. The tier 4 has 1.5 million health, and a tier 5 has 10 million health. The tier 4 deals 400 damage per second, tier 5 deals 2,400 damage per second. Not only that, in terms of a tier 4, you can just really get away with spamming it, and that isn't the same for a tier 5. So, just to set expectations and probably be realistic, a tier 5 Sven and Tarantula are probably just going to be around the same difficulty as a tier 5 Rev. Now, if I'm being honest, I think there's a little bit of a missed opportunity with Sven. So, of course, you've got the Radiant Power Orb, which can then be upgraded into a Mana Flux. Okay, Aatrox is almost going to be Maya, and that's when I'm planning to get Sven 7. Okay, so please don't bully me. But underneath one of these 3 covered items that you can get when you Wolf Slayer 7 will be an Overflux. Okay, but that isn't... You can then further that by getting a Plasma Flux. But that isn't from Sven Slayer, which, to be honest, would make more sense. If they were to just add more... If they were to add a tier 5, and... I don't know, it just sort of seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. Considering this Plasma Nucleus is obtained via the Dark Auction. What would really make more sense is if this was a drop from a tier 5. Obviously the tier 5s don't exist, but if they did. So I was thinking, well, what if there's a new upgrade to the Overflux? But I just don't think that's going to happen, because it naturally would be a Plasma Flux. I don't know, it seems a bit strange to me. Anyway, if it follows suit, in terms of armor, we can see that the Reaper armor is the best armor for Rev Slayer. So it's the Reaper set, which is, well, I guess one up from the Revenant set. In terms of Sven Slayer, we already see 2 armor sets. So we've got the Mastiff set, and then we also have the, well, of the pack set. I don't even know. Armor of the pack, there we go. So whether we would see a new armor set or not, I'm not 100% sure. What I would say is the Mastiff set isn't actually, I guess, a tier down from the Armor of the Pack. I mean, the Armor of the Pack doesn't one-up the Mastiff, 2 sort of completely different sets. So I guess we could potentially see a new armor set that would be stronger than the Armor of the Pack against Wolves. Either that, or we may see something that's comparable to the Warden Helmet. As we know, Hypixel Skyblock loves to use this helmet model, as we see here, here, and even clearer right here. But the Warden Helmet doesn't really give anything to benefit you in Rev Slayer. I mean, it's nothing Rev specific. Which makes me think that if there was something comparable to a Warden Helmet that was added in Sven Slayer, I've got no idea what it could potentially do, because it could do anything. Something else to mention is the fact that I guess the best sort of sword that you could potentially use against wolves that you have at the moment is this Pooch Sword. Of course, when this Slayer was designed, Skyblock was a lot different, plays did a lot less damage, and swords were nowhere near as strong as they are now. Of course, you gain quite a sizable amount of strength against wolves, but to be honest, even a Raider's Axe would give this a run for its money. So they could potentially introduce a new sword, and they could be quite creative with the name. They could call it something like the Rabid Sword. And to be honest, it could be slightly stronger against wolves, but I think the base damage of the sword just needs to be increased. Having said that, at the moment, you probably don't need anything else in order to kill a tier 4 Sven, but if a tier 5 Sven is that much harder, then you may need better weaponry. Sort of making this video, when I was talking about the foraging update, I feel like there's a lot more that they could do. In terms of Slayers, I just have the feeling that when this is eventually released, it is basically just going to be very similar to the way that Revenant Slayer is. I just have a feeling. And even though it would be very, very simple just to basically go off Revenant Slayer and just tweak it slightly to apply for different Slayers, I don't know. It just seems like that's going to happen. But if I'm being honest, it's just years too late. I mean, like I've said, the armor and weaponry that's designed for these Slayers at the moment is literally comparable to like Ender armor or Glaciite. Like it's not good. It does make sense why it's like that, but I don't know. I just think we've just been waiting for too long. As for Tarantula Slayer, not many people really use the rest of the Tarantula armor, but the Tarantula helmet is actually quite good and it's still usable. I know the Tarantula boots are sometimes used, or at least were used back in the day for dragons. I don't know how much they're still used. And for some reason, Skyblock doesn't think I'm Spider Slayer 2, or 1, or 5, or 6. Which is kind of confusing. Having said that, in terms of weaponry, we have the Scorpion Bow, and we have the Mosquito Bow. Now, to be completely honest, on this Mosquito Bow, for its time, doesn't have bad stats at all. The only thing is at the moment, nobody's going to use this bow, and realistically, you're not going to use a bow unless it's a short bow. That's the reality. After seeing how good a short bow is, it's kind of difficult to go back. So I guess they could quite simply just introduce a new bow, which is a short bow. And to be honest, it's not a very creative name, but they could just call it the Tarantula Short Bow. Or they could even call it something like the Stinger. I don't know. In terms of armor, I'm thinking they could just make a better version of the Tarantula set and call it the Stinger armor. Very creative, Nitros. And it could just quite simply be better against spiders and just better base stats. Honestly, there's so many different avenues they could go down when they release this update, if they ever do. Like I've said before in this video, the game has progressed and changed so much since, I guess, these slaves were first introduced. So really, the sky's the limit. Let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas for Slayers V2. I don't even know what's going to come from Slayers V2. They might even introduce new tiers for Enderman and Blaze. I mean, who even knows at this point? I mean, if the update takes them that long to bring out, to be honest, I doubt they're even working on it. The way that I doubt they're even... I mean, will they be working on the foraging update? I hope they are. Anyway, I haven't really got much else to say, and I just think that these updates are probably going to follow suit with Revenants, which is fine. I just think they've waited way too long. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.